right, Catherine, welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you taking the time and coming on here, having a conversation with me. I'm super grateful, and I'm really excited about the topic we're going to cover today because it's something I don't think that gets talked about a lot. There's a huge stigma around it, and it's something I've been wanting to explore, especially in the area where I'm working with men's mental health. But before we get into it, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, some of the work you're doing, and where are you located?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm located in Melbourne, Australia, but I have clients all over the world because my programs can be done online and done on Zoom. Thanks to COVID, we have amazing new things available to us. So that's where I'm based. I have been a kinesiologist for over 15 years now, and did a massage course probably 8 or 9 years ago, and that changed my business because I started to attract male clientele and all of my other modalities. So I'm a transformational coach, psycho-spiritual therapist. I do chiron healing, energy healing, all of the healing modalities basically. And when I learned the massage, it all came into one. And when I started to attract the male clients, I was actually inspired by their attitude towards healing, which actually shocked me because we've got this thing in society that men don't ask for help and they don't do the work. And I know there's a lot of men's groups out there, men's retreats and stuff, but this was 8 years ago and there was nothing. And what I discovered was the men were shifting their stuff quicker and then asking me what else afterwards, whereas the females were coming in for a nice massage and kinesiology, and then that was it. It was like I was a day spa kind of thing. So the guys were doing the homework, they were stepping up. So I opened a men's alternative healing center back in the day, and because there wasn't one in the whole entire world. There's a lot of erectile dysfunction clinics and men wearing white coats and things like that, but no one was actually just catering for men. I ended up having to close it 18 months later because I couldn't get the practitioners in who would specialize in men. So there's a massive issue in the industry with men's health not being, catered for. Men can go to any psychologist, any doctor, we all know that, but the real healing happens when you do these alternative therapies. So that's a bit of background on me. I'm now working from home. I have my clinic set up in my house and my office and my podcasting studio and all the things. And I'm working with men solely because for that reason. I still treat a couple of friends on the side, but it's my life's work. And years ago, when I had the clinic, I actually came across a porn addiction specialist who contacted me, and he said, he was a psychotherapist, and he said he wanted to come work with me. So we did an interview, and it was a very strange situation. He actually burst out crying, and after I told him what the work I was doing, and he was triggered, not necessarily in a bad way, but it turns out he'd had a porn addiction himself quite severely, and he'd worked through it, and now he was helping other men. So I was like, yep, come on board. Never even heard of this thing, only in my personal life had I been exposed to, guys watching porn and the culture of everyone watches it and that's just men and that's what they do and, all the things, and that women are just meant to go along with it and be fine with it. So anyway, he never came to work in the clinic. He only lasted a week and he didn't actually turn up. But what I'd done is changed my form for my clients to say, do you watch porn? Because I wanted to flag any referrals to send to him. And 100% of men were ticking that box. And I'm like, what is going on? And just the conversations with this man, I was this practitioner, I started researching it myself. So that's how I got into it. So you basically can't treat men without treating this because it is so prevalent in society, and it covers all age groups. Like I've got 13-year-olds that contact me on Instagram quite frequently and from all over the world. And then I treat, I think the oldest client I've had is 86. So this doesn't, discriminate in terms of age or anything. I was actually dating someone at the time who I call the porn angel, because he had all the symptoms of porn addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this other guy come in. So the links all started to come together, and I was doing some research. He had erectile dysfunction, he had mental health issues, but he hadn't put, the links together. And yeah, that's where it all kind of came together. And then I started doing research on porn addiction, and did my own research. So I've got a survey that's been running since 2018, and the data for that is being published in my new book. It's called The Uncensored Threat: Losing Generations to Pornography, because we're losing generations and generations, and the younger men, the boys, are in a worse case than, the older guys who've been watching it for 50, 60 years. So, I'm very passionate about helping men. There's a lot of problems in society that feed into this addiction, and trying to clear it for guys is almost has been almost impossible for men. Any men that's had a porn addiction has tried to quit, many times. It's like the smokers, any kind of addiction, people get stuck in these cycles. But my biggest thing is education, and that's why I give a lot of my stuff away for free, because I'm here to plant seeds and I'm here to do this work. And the survey results came back 97% of men were watching porn regularly. So my 100% of guys coming in to see me, and I wasn't a porn addiction specialist back then. I was just treating men in a men's health center. So men weren't coming to me for that, but we saw the research early on, and now we've got figures coming out like 97%. And the definition of a porn addiction is watching porn more than once a month. So once a month or more is classified as a porn addiction, because it's textbook addiction, definition. So anything that you can't go without for one, in a month, is you're actually addicted. So there's that. But I also have, guys in their 70s who are masturbating once a month and watching porn once a month. And when I speak to them, they're like, "Oh, I don't have an addiction." I'm like, "Okay, well, when was the last time you masturbated without porn?" So that's the key. So if you're masturbating once every 2 months and you're only masturbating with porn, you still have a porn addiction. Okay, because you're reliant on the porn to either get erections, get stimulated, get aroused, have an ejaculation. And for most men, that is the case. All of those things, fall into the same basket. And when I get men to masturbate without porn, they have erectile dysfunction, most of them. And it's around 95%. I haven't got exact stats on that, but it's just what I see. And I've treated thousands and thousands of clients, and it's almost like 1% don't have erectile dysfunction when they do the work with me, because they haven't realized that they're always watching porn, and that's when they get their erections. But when they try without it, there's no erections, and they can't orgasm. And so that's what we classify as erectile dysfunction, when there's no one else but you, and everything is failing. So yeah,
it's kind of mind-boggling when you put it in that sense, where even if you're watching it once a month, it's considered an addiction, because people have normalized it, right? If they're like, "Hey, I'm single," or I just, whatever, for whatever reason, they've normalized it, and it's crazy in that sense. But I think the other piece with it is the way porn portrays things, right? And I think, is that something you've touched on, in terms of like, it creates this reality distortion, right? And that becomes another issue that we're hearing about more and more as well.
Yeah, so I haven't, I do now speak about it, and that's very much what's in the book. But up until now, if I stood on my soapbox as a woman and said, "Stop watching porn," and tried to slap men across the wrists for doing it, I would have got, persecuted, which I did. I got persecuted just for being a woman in this field. I've had many attacks on social media and in my personal life, and lots and lots of people coming after me because of it. And I'm not the only one. Anyone that works in this field has people coming after them. So, but what people don't understand, so I don't come from a moral perspective, because I think that's a given. And I think that when they're going into schools and they're teaching this stuff, the argument of, well, it's not real, is just we're so far past that conversation. In terms of, so I come from a place of science and brain study. And so it is a neural addiction. It's not a behavioral addiction, and it's not a sex addiction. So it's a neural addiction. And what I mean by that is if say you've just started watching porn, and, we've got the internet and smartphones and whatever, and you watch porn every single day, what's happening is your brain's producing a whole lot of chemicals and hormones, and it's flooding the body. All right. So oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine are the three main ones. Dopamine is the novelty drug. We call it that. I like what I see and I want to see more of it. That's what dopamine hits are. Porn is probably the biggest hit, apart from skydiving. You've got a lot of adrenaline, but in terms of dopamine, if you masturbate and watch porn, it's the biggest fireworks display you can actually create in your brain. If you just watch porn without masturbating, you don't have the same problem, I guess. That's still a problem, but it's not the biggest problem. So dopamine, and then serotonin is the happy hormone. People feel happy when they've got high serotonin in their body. Someone that's depleted in serotonin is depressed. So you get to feel happy, you get to feel excited. And the other one is oxytocin. Now, the oxytocin is what we call a bonding hormone. Women produce it in high levels when they give birth, after they give birth, so they can bond with the baby and forget that they just gave birth to a watermelon. And it's produced when you make love to your partner, or when you're hugging your children. It's not necessarily a sexual, response in the body. However, what it means for porn watchers is that they're actually bonding with what they're watching. Right. And the other thing that's going on there is the hindbrain says, we didn't die from this yesterday. It's the impulse part of the brain. We didn't die from this yesterday. We're going to watch it again and again. And that impulse gets stronger and stronger and stronger. All right. As well as this chemical addiction going on. Then you've got the subconscious mind that if it has a chemical reaction happening in the body, it thinks it's happening to you. Okay. And this is where the danger is happening when it comes to reality and not, and real women in front of you, and disconnection from society and disconnection from women and not showing up in sex, is because men, their brains and their subconscious mind thinks that everything they've watched has actually happened to them if they had a chemical reaction. For example, if I sat here with a lemon and I cut it open and I started talking about the lemon and how juicy it is and, oh my God, it's so bitter and blah, 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 and then I put it near my mouth and I went to bite it, I would salivate, you would probably salivate, and anyone that was watching would do the same thing because you're having a reaction to what you're seeing. So that's a really good example to explain to men that your body thinks that you're tasting that lemon. So the same thing happens in porn, and it's frightening when you think about that. And you think about men that have been watching it for 40, 50 years. No wonder they're having vanilla sex. No wonder they're not satisfied with sex, or satisfied, with, because you'll never produce the same amount of chemicals and hormones in your body when you have sex with someone, even if it's mind-blowing sex. It's still a different connection kind of reaction. It's not necessarily a chemical one. So guys are often, still having to watch porn and masturbate after they've had sex with someone to get that rush and that high. So that's the chemical, cocktail that's happening. Then what happens is, so your brain, if you watch porn every single day for a week, your brain thinks it's on cocaine or crack. It's exactly the same as a drug addiction. It can't actually, it'll survive. You're not going to die from this. But if your brain actually can't accommodate for all those extra chemicals and hormones because it's not normal, right? So it starts to adjust and change. And that's called rewiring. So the brain starts to rewire. Now, a lot of men are watching, or boys are watching porn at a very early age. I can't even remember anyone that started watching porn in their 20s. And your brain is developing up until the age of, I think it's 22 or 27. So you are literally pulverizing your brain with all these chemicals and hormones. And what happens is, what goes up must come down. So you have a crash from that chemical reaction in the body. When you have a crash, the hormone called prolactin goes up in the body, which causes erectile dysfunction. Okay, so you've got this chemical cycle just going up and down and up and down. Hit, crash, hit, crash, hit, crash. When that's happening, you've got an addiction in the brain. that's where your sexual drive is coming from. So sexual drive is actually, or libido, or, you hear all these terms. It's your organic sexual energy that comes from within. It's your kundalini energy, your life force energy that's running up your spine. It's your chi. It's got all different types of names. We're born with it. It was there at conception. It's what makes all your organs work and function and all the things. And that's your natural sexual energy. Back in the 90s when we all worked in the city, I was in corporate, and on a Friday afternoon, everyone had their best suits on, their best ties, their shortest skirts, the lipstick was out, everyone was getting ready at 4:00, the wine was actually coming out in the office.
Yeah.
The whole city in Melbourne would be pumping and the sun would be out and everyone's heading to the beer gardens and the pubs and stuff. And there's smells in the air and there's music that you still remember to this day of that where you were. That's natural sexual energy, right? That's natural connection with people. And he said this and she gave me her number, and all of that is not there anymore. You go to the pub and the girls are all dressed up to the nines with the matching things, and as you get older it takes a lot longer to get ready, and you've got to have the matching handbag and the shoes, and you go out like a peacock and the guys are all insular and they're not talking to the girls. They're all talking to each other, and they're afraid because they've lost their confidence, and they've got, porn addictions and anxiety problems and performance anxiety, and they've lost their erections, and dating women is too hard now and no one's making any effort. And so all of this is happening. The other thing that's happening in your body is you're losing chi or life force energy every time you ejaculate. So that's a whole other conversation where the minerals and nutrients that are in ejaculate are what keeps the prostate healthy. So that's a whole other thing there. So you're losing your selenium, you're losing your testosterone, half your daily testosterone you lose every time you ejaculate. Half your daily zinc, not testosterone. Zinc produces testosterone in the body. It's the man mineral, right? And men aren't taking it. And if they're not taking it, they're not getting it from their foods because we're not eating the way we used to. So men are losing their hair and they're getting bad skin, and the mental health issues that go with all of that. From ejaculating too much, just from that, without the porn addiction. So you've got this hit crash, brain losing sexual energy, losing chi, and then you've got the biggest one, which is the brain damage that occurs from that. And there's a very popular scan on Google if you want to look up brain scans of heroin addict and a porn addict. And the porn addict's brain is actually worse than the heroin addict in terms of damage. What it does is it damages the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is your decision-making, your focus, concentration. It's your mental health. It's your emotional expression. So how we say men can't talk and can't express themselves? Well, guess why? They actually can't because of the brain damage. It controls your sexual behaviors. It also reduces the gray matter in the body, which is all of your coordination and nervous system and all of these things. So when we come from a moral perspective versus what I know, people start to listen because it's unhealthy, and it's not healthy for anyone around them because, they've got mental health issues, they've got addictions, and not one single guy that I've spoken to has ever told anyone about their addiction. Not their partner, not their best mate. Some of them will say, oh, my wife knows I watch porn. I'm like, but does she know you're watching it 3 times a day while she's not home? And that you're on dating sites and that you're going to see sex workers and well, no, she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, and I think, that's everything you shared is really insightful and valuable information, for myself included. I think coming out of that, a few questions, I guess. Well, first of all, the one comment I did want to make, you're talking about how men are not able to approach women anymore. I think part of it is also now these dating apps have created this platform for men where they don't have to talk to women anymore, right? They could just swipe left or right and start a conversation. But I guess one of the things I did want to understand was, why is the dopamine effect so much more stronger when you're masturbating with porn as opposed to just watching porn?
Because you're adding pleasure in your body to what you're watching. Okay. So Yeah. It has a more, it's like a fireworks display versus just, oh, look at that. And there's a bit of a rush in your body. If you add pleasure to the rush of what you're watching, it's like when people choke themselves, I can't say it, asphyxiation and masturbation or having sex, that it's the same thing. It's when you couple masturbation with something else, you end up with a much higher explosion in the brain. The dopamine actually kicks in before. Normally, someone that has an addiction, they're always on a cycle. It might be every 2 days. It might be 3 times a day. It might be, one guy in America was 36 times a day. So, it's an every day. And that was frightening to actually deal with someone like that. So, because I had no idea that was occurring. So what happens is, say it's a guy that does it every day. He'll often do it at the same time every day. So when the brain comes down off the chemicals, the guys will say, oh, I'm all right now. I can focus. I can concentrate. I don't feel horny anymore. I'm okay, right? So they get that we call it ejaculation hangover, which is never good for you either. So they get that and they feel good. But the brain has better ideas because you're already on an everyday cycle. So the brain kicks in around the same time that you normally masturbate. Might be at dinner time, might be first thing in the morning, and you can't ignore it because the impulses are kicking in. The chemical reaction, what's happening is the brain's coming down off the chemicals throughout the day, and then it needs another hit for you to just think of it as heroin. The heroin addicts are coming down. It's horrendous when they come down off. That's literally what guys are doing. They're coming down off the drugs and then they need another hit. So often it'll be when they're driving home, the dopamine will start to kick in, or when they know their wife is out, or when they know they're going to have some alone time. That's when the dopamine kicks in. It's way before the porn and the masturbation. So
got it. No, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for explaining that. I guess one of the things I did want to discuss today with you was the mental health aspects of it. So I know you've touched on it a little bit, but I just want to explore that a bit further, like, because I think part of the challenges, at least I can understand based on what you've already discussed, is, it's obviously impacting your relationships. It's impacting who you are in terms of how you're showing up in relationships. And obviously any form of addiction is not good for your mental health. But what are the longer term issues of something like this? And then I guess what I want to discuss later on is what can men do to mitigate this?
So, like with anything, the quicker you get on top of this, the better it will be. When I treat 27-year-olds versus, they haven't quite got erectile dysfunction yet. And then when I treat the 40-year-olds or 35-year-olds, it's all over Red Rover by that stage. It's a common theme of there's certain age brackets that I see that I know they're all the same. They've all got the same symptoms. So the quicker you get onto this, the better. If you can start today, do it, make a decision and, either get in contact with me or somebody else and get it done, because it causes brain damage in 100% of cases. You cannot watch porn regularly. And we say it regularly. We don't even call it porn addiction. I mean, we call it porn addiction, but I don't ever call someone a porn addict. It's because people don't associate with the word addict or addiction when it comes to porn. So they're like, oh, that's not me. And a lot of days I get messages from guys saying, I don't watch it too much. I'm not addicted. And they're watching it every day or once a week, and that's still, an addiction. So the brain damage is 100% of cases. You can't watch porn and not have brain damage. Just that's a given. That's the foundation of where we're at. When you have brain damage, you have to have mental health issues. That's again a given. It's impossible to have brain damage and not have mental health issues, which I think everyone would agree with. As I said, the brain damage is all of that focus and concentration. The other part of it that doesn't have to do with the brain but still affects the rest of your life is the sexual imbalance, because I'm an energy healer and we work with chakras and kundalini and everything. The sexual imbalance that happens in the sacral chakra, which is just below your belly button, to an energy center, that's where you orgasm from. It's where you store all your guilt and shame, though, and it's where we create from. It's both men and women, we create from our bellies, basically, our desire for life, planning holidays, creating new meals, doing stuff with the kids. being an entrepreneur in your business, all of that comes from this sacral chakra. So it's not just about the brain. When there's a sexual imbalance, whether you've been abused as a child or, a porn addiction or sex addiction or anything around that sexual imbalance, it will affect all areas of your life. All right. So you've got this brain stuff going on. You've got other things showing up. There's organs like the kidneys are responsible for sexual health in men. So we work with all of those things in kinesiology. It's not just, the brain. But when you've got problems with focus, concentration, and you're not creating, you've got no desire for life, you've lost your motivation just because of what's happening in your body, not because of what's happening in your life, then you've got mental health issues because you're stuck, and then you add in the actual depression and anxiety that occurs in the brain because of the porn addiction. You'll have low energy if you're watching porn a lot and you're ejaculating a lot. You'll have low sexual energy, even though men, if I had $1 for every time a guy said, I've got really high sexual energy, I've got this huge libido, no one can keep up with me. We take them off the porn, it's non-existent. They've obliterated it. And that's 100% of cases. So you think you're highly sexual, but it's your brain addicted to the chemicals in your body and addicted then to the porn. So you'll have low energy, low sexual energy. You'll feel disconnected from yourself, from your penis, from your heart, from the women or men in your life, whichever you go for. Your children, you'll feel disconnected from your children. And it's a physical response, a chemical response, chakras, everything. It's your energy. It's vibrational frequency, right? So we talk about this all the time. If you're watching porn, you're at a very low vibrational frequency because of everything I just mentioned. If you've got depression, you move slow, you talk slow, you're vibrating slow. You want to stay and watch Netflix. You don't want to go out. Someone like me who works at a very high level with the energy work that I do, I'm at a high vibrational frequency. I talk fast, I move fast, I've got 50 things on the go at once, and I'm totally okay with all of that. I do have my downtime, obviously. You go up and down all the time. But if you're at a low vibrational frequency, if you're eating pizza and drinking Coke all the time and you've got a shitty diet and you're ejaculating all the time and you're not looking after yourself, then you'll vibrate at a low frequency. So all of these things come into play with porn addiction. The relationships, it definitely affects relationships, even when you don't know it. So couples come to me and we look at what's going on in their relationship and I'm like, but it's always porn, not necessarily. She may not even know that porn's involved, but he has disconnected sexually. He's not present. He's not showing up. He's not even interested in sex. Back in the day, men, thought with their penis. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Now it's the women getting rejected sexually by the men, and it's happening at the pub and the nightclubs, in social scenes, the dating scene. Don't even get me started. I've been on that for a long time, and that's all in my new book as well about relationships. We've got lots of data from men who I've asked, how often do you cheat? What else do you do? Do you go to sex workers? It's all anonymous data. And we've got some seriously messed up people commenting. And it's like, you do know this is going in my book too. Yeah. About the way they feel about women, about their wives. They're bitching and moaning to me about the women but they're watching porn and they're just so disconnected from their family and their relationships. So it comes down to then if your sex life is shit, if you've lost like erectile dysfunction, if you've lost that, you're going to have mental health issues as well. And I've got 17-year-olds that are impotent and they've never even kissed a girl or had sex, and it's from porn. And that's very, very common. And a lot of them don't even know what impotence is, and they don't even know what a normal erection kind of thing is, waking up with morning erections and things like that. They don't know that because they've obliterated their penis right from, age 12, 13, sometimes age 5. So it's, so all of these things add up to performance anxiety, depression, social anxiety, this disconnect. Like women can tell, or the women in the know, let's say the women that know about this and have done some inner work and stuff, they can tell a difference between a man that watches porn and one that doesn't, sexually, the way they show up, the energy, there's no energy. There's nothing to connect to. I'm an energy healer. So when I'm in my personal life, I'm connecting with that person, and there's lots of weird stuff going on. The bodies are shaking, and people, it feels like you're leaving your body, and all of this amazing stuff. It can only occur if you don't watch porn, because someone that watches porn just can't, it's not, and this isn't a dig at men. This isn't, it's not a conscious thing. These are nice guys. I'm not sleeping with shitty guys. These are really nice guys who've got their shit together, but they're watching porn, and it's affecting all areas of their life. So the mental health is the biggest thing. That's where we come from. Erectile dysfunction is so common that's I've got an ebook on that, because that's literally the first sign that guys notice that something's wrong, but they'll try and justify it and will it away by saying, well, I'm a diabetic, or I'm on blood pressure medications, or I'm a smoker. And, so the world out there, the medical world, says that you'll have erectile dysfunction if all of these things are occurring. I have never met a man, it's 100% of cases, even the ones that have blood pressure issues, diabetes, all of those things, when they quit porn, their erections start to return. So the medical field doesn't understand this whole porn-induced erectile dysfunction, because what you're doing is you're overstimulating your brain and you're desensitizing your penis. So when a woman comes to touch you, nothing happens, because it's not the same touch that you're giving yourself, and you don't have the visual stimulation. And when I say we can tell the difference between guys that watch porn and don't, the ones that do watch porn will do anything to get that erection going, and they'll put you in weird positions, they'll slap, they'll choke, that crossing of the line stuff is very, very common these days. And you almost have to have a conversation, well, I do anyway, with someone before you go on dates, like, where are you at with this porn thing? Because I'm not, and have a consent kind of conversation as an adult, like what is normal to you? Because if you're going to slap me and choke me, then I'm not even going to go near you. So so it's just a rabbit hole you go down, and there's warrens everywhere, and it leads to sex addiction, cheating, going outside the relationships, massage parlors, sex workers, and I've even researched serial killers, which is in my new book. And it all comes back to pornography. It doesn't mean you're born, some people were born a bit strange. We get that. Porn doesn't make you a serial killer, but there hasn't been a single serial killer that I've looked up that wasn't heavily involved in hardcore pornography from a very early age. So, it makes you do other things. It always leads to something else, because the dopamine hit that you got from watching vanilla sex on porn in the 80s isn't there anymore. You can't get that fix. So, I've got men that are in public toilets messaging me, I don't know what to do, please help me. They're not gay, they're not bi, but they're in men's public toilets waiting for another man from some app to show up and to degrade them. And that's the only way they can orgasm, and they're suicidal. So, men that, I just watch porn, there's nothing wrong with me. Trust me, when you've treated as many men as I have, you see this stuff. And that's why I'm releasing this book, and it's massive. It's like 100,000 words. And it's all the stories, because people need to know what this leads to and what this can be. And at the very best, it's a terrible thing for your body and your brain and your penis and your wife and, your dating life, all of those things.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, thank you for explaining all of that. I think the mental health challenges from that are quite significant, obviously. I guess for people, like, I think most of the dialogue you hear, or the narrative is like, hey, I need to get off, I'm horny. And I need to, masturbate. So what do people do in those cases? I mean, yeah, like,
Yeah.
but in those scenarios.
Yeah, so the solutions are different depending on who you see and who you talk to. I'm the only one in the world, I believe, and I'm happy to be challenged on that, that's doing the work that I'm doing. I've designed a complex healing system, as I mentioned before, that's massage based, but it's got all the kinesiology and the meridian work and activating Kundalini. When we activate Kundalini, which is the core energy that runs up your spine, it's your sexual energy, the body starts to move and shake. We call it the Kundalini shake. So the abs starts to clench, and their whole body's moving in a quantum wave while they're on the table. It's almost like an exorcism, because the guys are normally crying or kind of releasing, anger and or coughing or whatever at the same time. It's a really, really powerful thing that it's a bit of a trend sweeping the world, but that is the cure to porn addiction, the physical hands-on treatment. So anyone that can't come and see me in person, find someone that'll activate your Kundalini. That will stop you from watching porn. The guys you can have a look on my website, all of the testimonials, and a lot of them are really shocked. I don't know what you did to me. I don't understand what's happening, but I don't feel like watching porn again. And it lasts we reckon about 2 months when they start to slide back. If they don't keep going with that, if they only have one session, they start to slide back into life and stresses come on top, and then they start watching porn again. But that is the number one thing that people need to do, is go and get their Kundalini activated. And my advice is, if someone says they're doing it and your body doesn't start to move and shake and convulse from the abs, then it hasn't happened, because there's a lot of people out there saying, I'm a Kundalini person, and nothing happened. So that's the number one thing people need to do. Reading and educating, or watching my videos. I've got hundreds of videos on YouTube, and I've got 3 free ebooks, and I'm going to give everyone access to those today. You've got to understand how this works, how the brain addiction works. You've got to understand it's like a drug addiction, and that it's not you, it's not your personality. It has become part of your personality because it's in the control panel of your personality. However, it doesn't make you a bad person. There is no judgment here. You've got to understand that it's a physiological response in the body. And when men start to they have to get that part. Otherwise, there's no why to fix it. They don't let themselves off the hook. The self-esteem gets in the way, and they think they're, all the shame and guilt and all of that goes with it. So as soon as you step up and go, there's a thing happening in my body, then it's a lot easier to manage. I have programs as well, but my methods are very different to a psychologist or, that type of thing. I teach conscious self-pleasure. Okay. So let's imagine there's a chain and there's 4 links. It's porn, masturbation, orgasm, and ejaculation. And those 4 normally occur in one session with a guy. What I do is I take the porn link out, but the vital information is you link the other 3 back up. You have to teach men how to masturbate properly. You just do. And everyone will say, you're a girl. What are you talking about? Trust me. I've spoken to 15,000 men. I worked out the other day. I know what I'm doing, right? And men have been masturbating a certain way for their whole lives because they don't know any different, because porn's always been there, right? So I teach conscious self-pleasure. This is why NoFap doesn't work. Everyone's kind of heard of NoFap, which means no masturbation, no porn, no orgasm. What that does, it's going cold turkey. And what that does is it suppresses your sexuality. You're basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're saying, I'm going to become non-sexual, and all these triggers are going to go away, and I'm going to be fine. What you don't realize is your brain's coming down off crack, and it's going to look and look and look until you give in. So and when you go on a diet, the no-fap diet or any diet, you put your brain into scarcity mode, into that mindset. Right. So you feel good about it for a couple of days, and then the brain's got other ideas saying, we need a drug fix right now. Okay. So trying to ignore that is so exhausting. And they relapse time and time again. If you watch on Instagram, thousands and thousands of, billions of no-fap accounts, and every few days they're like relapse, because they don't understand the addiction cycle. So we link the 3 chains back together. So we teach you how to masturbate and ejaculate and have an orgasm. There's specific timings. So you're doing it for 10 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 30 minutes. You start looking at it as ritual. This is setting up a space in your schedule, and then in your physical room, dim the lights, have a shower, have a bath, whatever. It's about arousing the 5 senses, or the 4 in this case. We don't do taste in masturbation, but the limbic system, which is the arousal system, has been obliterated by porn because you've relied on sight and your brain chemicals, and the penis is just dragged along for the ride. So to awaken that that limbic system and that organic sexual energy we spoke of earlier, is you have to learn to arouse, and it's through sense of smell, touch, so essential oils, touching yourself in other places like back of your neck, top of your head. It moves the energy around the body when you're masturbating. It's not like like touching myself all over type thing. It's an energetic practice. Breath work is really important. Closing your eyes is vital. Putting something over your eyes, using coconut oil to, make the sense of touch a bit different, and having a timing system, which then it becomes a training exercise. So you're retraining the brain, you're linking all of those links back up. So rewiring it around, what does masturbation mean for me? What is my sexuality? Because if you can't work your body, let's say, how do you expect a woman to come along and be part of that? And a lot of men are kind of blaming women for erectile dysfunction, or the women are blaming themselves, So my key to everything, even the kinesiology women that come in, I say, how often are you masturbating? Oh, I don't masturbate, or I don't. Okay, well, we have to start there. It starts there, because self-pleasure is self-care, self-love. It's ritual. You start making sounds. You have to listen to music. It becomes, this thing that everyone looks forward to, and then we actually teach them to stop ejaculating. So you actually have orgasms without ejaculation. And there's energy practices around the microcosmic orbit. There's sublimation breath. There's a whole lot of practices that we teach the body to have multiple orgasms without ejaculation, and full body orgasms that feel like it's coming out your ears and out your toes kind of thing. Because you can't just speak to a guy through talk therapy and say, stop watching porn. It doesn't work. It doesn't. Talk therapy is not enough. I don't care what modality you are. If you're just talking to men about porn addiction, and you're telling them to have a cold shower, or go exercise, or start a new habit, or it's not enough. You have to work with the sexual element of the man and make him more sexual, more connected, more available and open, more connected to his heart and his nether regions. Like we want to awaken and activate all parts of you, your energy field, your circulatory system, your kidneys. We want it all to activate and wake up. And a man that watches porn is dead, is literally dead energetically, vibrational frequency. So that's my solution, which is pretty cool. People love getting homework to masturbate. They really do. and they can kind of see how that's, we want guys to self-pleasure, but only once a week if you're going to ejaculate, and at least 20 minutes, so that you're moving the energy around the body. You can use this for manifestation. You can use sexual energy for manifesting money. You can masturbate over money and how much in your bank account and how it feels to have that money. Sexual energy is the most powerful force on the planet. And when you manifest and visualize and embody things when you're masturbating, then, but that's a whole other thing. But I teach that as well.
Okay. So I guess for listeners, it's what you're suggesting is obviously, you got to cut the porn out, but the masturbation is okay, but it has to be in moderation, like once a week, and you're trying to manage the timing of it. So you're getting the full experience. And it's not something like, 30 seconds and you're done. Right. So
if you teach yourself to ejaculate quickly in masturbation, or train your body to do that, which is what you're doing, you're conditioning it. These men have premature ejaculation. And the men that watch a lot of porn, they also have premature ejaculation, because watching porn makes you, ejaculate quicker. So whatever you do in masturbation will happen during sex, but amplify it as well. If you add female genitalia and you used to, and you can masturbate for 20 minutes, then you're not going to be able to withstand pleasure, with a woman involved for 20 minutes. But if you're not training your body to last 20 minutes and edging and clearing the blockages in your body and stuff, then and you're not breathing. If you're not breathing during masturbation, you're just shallow breathing and you're clenching and tensing your bum cheeks. You're not allowing the energy to flow. So this work that I do makes you a better lover, like hands down. I've got people messaging me years later saying, I've met this girl, everything you taught me years ago is now, and now she's my soulmate and I've connected with her and my erections have returned. And, so we want everyone to be happy and fulfilled and to know their body, to know what it's capable of, and do the work. Like if you're not willing to do the work, how do you expect to meet a woman who wants to date you or wants to marry you, or, and it's like with any addiction, like you said, it's not healthy for you or the people around you. So, and there's plenty of, we can help you. There's plenty of things we can do. So no masturbating in the shower, no quickies, no, rubbing one out, no. If you're going to masturbate now, your job is to make it at least 10 minutes. Then make it 20 minutes and set a timer. And then what these guys have to do, my clients, is they can only ejaculate on 10 minutes. They can't ejaculate 5 minutes later or 2 minutes before. So it's a strict kind of thing. And you have to start off masturbating every second day. Then you do it every fourth day. Then you do it once a week. So you have to wean down off the brain. And most likely you'll have no sexual energy. You won't feel like touching yourself and you won't have any erections. So this becomes a massive thing for people. So I've got this 2-week challenge that I'd like to give everyone free access to today. It's normally $17. It's a taster of what we do, and all the instructions are there, exactly what I just explained in this interview, and they can have free access to that. And it'll get them to see where they're at. Can they go without porn? Can they go 2 days without porn? Can they masturbate? Do they have erection issues? All of those things. People need to work that out for themselves before they come and see me. So,
yeah, no, that's great. And, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been really, like I said, insightful and full of information that I don't think most people appreciate or have awareness on. But, speaking of, I want to thank you again for coming on here and sharing this. All the work you're doing sounds amazing. But for people that want to get a hold of you, whether it's through social media or your website, what are some of the ways they can get a hold of you, and how can they access this 2-week challenge?
Sure. So I'll give you the link to the 2-week challenge. So that'll be available in the copy of where this gets published, or they can contact me directly if that's a problem. But I'm from, my business name is Integrated Men's Health in Melbourne, Australia. I've got a Facebook page. I'm on Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the places. But the website is integratedmenshealth.com.au. And you can find all my I've got 3 free ebooks on that website as well. They can get that there. The 2-week challenge is there, but it's the paid version. So they do need to contact either myself or you to get access to that for free. So yeah, and there's plenty of contact forms and chat boxes. They can talk to me on my website directly just by texting or finding me on WhatsApp. There's lots of ways through the website that you can get in contact with me.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it, and super grateful for you to take the time today.
No, it's great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.